tell me about these pictures, these early pictures in here. Tell me about those again so I can get that recorded.
Now I remember James Belshe, but I have to go back and read where I met him or what too. But I don't know.
Now your granddad was Robert Sherman.
Yeah, Robert Sherman.
And you were telling me that
he was one of the handsomest men.
He was a grocery drummer. Is that what you said?
Yes, for Gildy House, Wolfing at the last.
Yeah.
It was a grocery concern out of St. Louis, and of course, it tells in here though another organization that a grocery company that he traveled for out of St. Louis, but his what? Just turn that off. Let me look here just a minute. Well, we started in June, I guess, in 1927, two-door Pontiac.
Yeah.
And I was about 19. I was 15 when we started, and I got 16. No, I was 16 when we started.
And you were with
Granddad Belshe, Robert Sherman.
Robert Sherman.
Yeah. And of course his daughters, Eileen and Edith, were living out there then. And we went out and stayed about 6 weeks with them.
This is Southern California?
La Habra, right out of, and Whittier.
Yeah.
It was La Habra then where they lived. Both of them did. Their husband worked.
So you drove from here?
To here, to California.
How long did that take?
About 5 days, 4.5.
Were the roads paved at that time?
Around, and some of the larger cities, was the city of Albuquerque, the city of course, going into Los Angeles. Most of them just dirt road.
Dirt road.
And we stayed in a cabin. The first cabin, we went to, from here the first night, we drove to Bristow, Oklahoma, and stayed with his daughter, my Aunt Deanna.
Mm-hmm.
And the next night, we drove to Shamrock, Texas. We stayed in a cabin. Instead of a motel, it wasn't a motel, but they were little cabins along the road, which was Highway 66 then.
Mm-hmm.
We drove, that's the route we took. And the first night, this cabin did come a Texas windstorm, and dust with it, and rain. We stayed in the cabin, and it rained in the cabin. We had to take our suitcases back to the car and get up in front of the bed. We couldn't get down because the floor was wet and the wind blew. But it wasn't bad. We had a nice sleep. We started next day. But about 4.5 days later, we drove into Whittier, California. And of course, the desert was hot then. We put a blister bag of water in front of our radiator, keep it cool while we drove.
Yeah.
But we got to...
This is the middle of the summer?
We come back on July, after staying there about 6 weeks. We crossed the desert coming back on the 4th of July, and it was hot.
I bet it was.
We stayed in Needles. We got in Needles, California about 1 o'clock that evening. We drove the desert at night, and it was about 104 when we got in Needles, California that night and got a hotel that night.
Mm-hmm.
And drove back. But while we were out there, we saw his, we always call him Uncle Perry, my folks did, but it was his granddad Belshe's, Robert Sherman, half-brother. He would have been...
It'd be Oliver Perry Belshe. And you called him Uncle Perry.
Well, I call him Uncle Perry because that's what my dad, I guess, called him.
Yeah.
And he was the one that had been in the gold rush, California, and struck it, but then had lost it one way or the other. I never did. I'd heard several different stories of what it lost it. But his partner, I understand.
Well, tell me some of the good stories here.
Meaning what?
Are there any skeletons in the closet we want to talk about or not?
I don't know of any. They didn't tell me.
They didn't tell you.
No.
You were too young to know that.
I was too young, no. No, but he was...
see, my dad would have been about 7 at that point, wouldn't he?
He's 5 years younger
Mm-hmm.
than I am. Yeah. But I remember Uncle Perry walking up to his son's meat market about 2 blocks from where they lived. And he was keen. He was an old man. He was stooped over. He was probably a foot shorter than he was when he was a young man. But we went down to his house one day and visited, and I can remember his wife. I forgot her name. Being here. But she was arthritic. She was in bed. She was a kind of rather grotesque-looking individual in bed there. Now, another person that I can remind, pardon, we went to spring. My dad and mother, when Mabel and I was first married, took us to Spring Garden. He wanted to show us where he was born, and we went there, and the old store. It was a two-story general mercantile store, still standing there. But I don't think it was being used only for a warehouse or for feed storage, something. But it said his dad and his brother had a store there, and he was born in an upstairs room, and he showed which room it was.
Yeah.
That was just a square there. And then we come back by Eugene. And just before we got into Eugene, coming back south, we stopped to Aunt Lily Robinson's place. Robertson, it would be, it's not Robinson. And she was an arthritic. She was bedfast. And we visited Dad, visited her quite a while. And that's the only time I'd ever seen her. Now her son, Mr. Robertson, had a Western auto store in Iberia, and he developed quite a land holdings into there in cattle. And I remember him because he handled some of the same merchandise we did. We had the hardware, and we'd be at sale meetings, and we'd be together. And his son now had inherited the farm, so he's a big farmer down into there now, cattle. But that's all I remember of Aunt Lily. I don't know why I've got this. I've never had it before. But Uncle Tom at Hickory Hill, I can remember when we went from Eldon, we stayed with Grant and Lena. That was my granddad's half-brother, I guess. We stayed all night there. This was on his trip, the trip that I took with him on his weekly run around the grocery stores. And the next day, after staying in Eldon with Grant and Lena, we drove over to Eugene that evening and stayed with Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was a tall, red-headed fellow with a red-headed, big mustache. He was very thin. And he wasn't feeling, I can remember he was sick that night for some reason. I have no idea what it was. I was too young to feel it. I remember to be interested in why. Because really he didn't mean anything to me then. Just people that I had seen so many people this week that we had gone. One more individual was just another individual with me at that time. They didn't have it mean like they would now. But we stayed on that. I can remember this house. You crossed a little creek, and right on the other side of the creek was this two-story house where they lived, and he had his farm. And I can go to Jeff City now on Highway 54. I can look down there and see the house.
It's still there.
Still there, I guess so. Well, several years ago, I still had the hardware. There was a Belshe from Hickory Hill come in to visit me, and he introduced himself. And Uncle Tom was his uncle too. But I believe he said his dad lived in Iowa then. This fellow come to see me. But he lived in Hickory Hill now. And I don't know if he lived on the old farm place or not. I just got a chance to talk to him just a minute. I was busy, and he was busy coming to Richmond on some business. But he had a daughter that was interested in walking horses.
Oh, I see.
Riding horses.
So, yeah. When did you get interested in walking horses?
The dad's born.
Is that right?
Not walking horses, especially.
Yeah.
He always liked a horse.
Yeah.
Animal. But of course, Steve and Tim, they keep show horses all the time, 4 or 5. Sure.
Is that what was born yesterday with this colt? Was that a walking horse?
That's a registered walking horse. Got a colt. And he built the first sidewalk in Richland, Missouri.
Robert Sherman did.
Robert Sherman did. My granddad.
I guess a wooden sidewalk?
Oh no, concrete.
Concrete
Oh
sidewalk.
yes, first concrete sidewalk in Richland. And it's still, it was there when I was, till I was 40, 50 years old, and they built a funeral home in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all taken up and made into a landscape yard.
Oh.
No sidewalks there anymore. Maybe there is two, I believe, too, but it wouldn't be the original sidewalk.
Not likely.
Not like
I guess it would be probably gone by now. Well, let's see now. Did you work in the drugstore some?
At milkshake making time, I did. Oh yeah, I worked in there lots. I knew the drugstore was pretty good. Yeah, sure.
Now, who started that? Was that your dad or was that Robert Sherman?
It happened, and I remember 1924 when they started it. They bought it, and I don't know. I know my dad, and I guess my granddad bought it together probably. And then later on, my uncle, he was a pharmacist. He
Yeah.
took me in on it. There's three of them.
Which uncle was that?
Arlie,
Arlie.
Robert Arlington.
Yeah.
Robert Arlington.
Yeah.
Was it Robert Arlington?
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Have you got this numbering system figured out?
Always been explained to me, but I never took the time
Have
to.
you figured out your number?
Well, I'm 1498, I believe. I think I put that on there.
Well, it'll be 49.
4981. Let's see.
491.
Just sit on these, not too comfortable to man.
49.
191.
491.
Oh, like this.
You're 4914.
4913.
You're 4913.
Yeah, I'm 4914.
You're a reader, aren't you?
Well, I go through spurts of reading.
I think that's good.
Sometimes I
No,
don't.
I just keep reading when I want to get started.
I never read in the daytime at home, ever.
Well, I do if I start a book.
Horse reads all night.
I'll
He's
find
fine.
sometimes.
There's
during
conversation
I-
in the
I
background or
I
recording.
mean, I don't know. I just don't do it. I save it for night.
You just always have a lot of different things to do. don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You always got to.
And
Work or
I'm just
not?
not as comfortable. I don't know. I like to read after kids are in bed at night.
Oh, I can't read at night. I go to sleep.
And Mabel
Oh, I
knows we're
do.
taking her
Yeah,
picture.
I do too.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
I read mostly on vacation.
Yeah, I read in the car.
It makes me sick sometimes. Sick too.
No,
Yeah, I can only read for short periods of time in the car. It makes me sick too.
I can read in the car,
Once
in the car.
Once in a while, I can read in the car a little. Look at a magazine or something. What are you doing over there?
Here's Rosanna and Jane Etterville. Of course, there's an Etterville, right up close to you, saying it out.
Who's that?
Roseanne, Jane Etter, Belshe. There's an Etterville. Ooh, William Madison Belshe.
William Madison?
Yeah.
William Madison. That must have been one of, it's probably one of Madison Harvey Belshe's sons.
Well,
What's his number?
44.
44. Well, he would have been Robert Franklin's fourth child.
Getting good. Just roll those off his tongue like nothing.
Those numbers really solve a lot of troubles with all these. He was the fourth child of the fourth child. And Robert Franklin was the fourth child of Robert Belshe, and so William would have been his fourth son.
Now here's a Robert
Steve
Belshe.
and Sally have.
Number 11.
1-1, yeah.
Well, I think
So he's
we
the
get-
first child.
Of course, they'll be passed on. The rest
All
of
right.
them,
He's
I
one.
don't know how.
He is
Well,
the-
who's
yes.
who's his wife?
Horse, did we get 2 books?
Yes. I give one of them to Sid.
Well, Sally said Tim wanted one, so I'm gonna give that extra one to Tim, Bob.
Okay.
Mary Clancy,
I didn't know how interested.
Oh, that Robert Belshe. Yeah.
Well, she said.
1755.
He's I. He's the.
Well, that's not a, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the father of Robert. and the grandfather of Robert Franklin.
Well, Chris gave Roland.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, we gave Roland one to give to Chris.
Oh, that's the way it was.
We had one, and she said, and she wanted to give Chris one. We asked her if she had one. We were going to give her one. And she said, I don't remember what she said, but she said, I'd like to have it to give to Chris. I'd like to give it. So we brought her one to give to Chris.
Dad looks
And
about
we
asleep
still
over
have
there.
one. And
Chris
so
was in the
Sally said,
Mount
"Well,
Rushmore in the Black Hills this weekend.
so I said,
Me and
"Well,
Kelly.
you can have this."
You sleepy, Dad?
Well, I'll bring that.
Well, not too
Chris is
energetic
the
at the moment.
most interested in, old things.
How'd your visit with Aunt Rosalind go?
He wants all over something.
Fine.
There's Pat, she's awake, taking a nap this afternoon.
Looks glowing now, after her rest.
So Chris and Kelly aren't going to be at the,
I think
No,
we
they've gone to Mount Rushmore. He had an account service close to that area yesterday.
yeah, there's two, I think, one going, one coming,
So
somewhere.
he's gonna stay in the area.
Chris reminds me of Sally, he gets all these things. I bet he's done all the planning on this, probably. Rosen always said Jenny did all the planning on their trip to Mississippi. Or the horse, or George's trip.
Jenny and Dick are coming next
Did you do
weekend, and
More practice drive?